Hello, guys. How's it going?
Um,
Are you guys
yeah, doing
safe
good.
away from the coronavirus? Jesus.
Mhm.
Yeah, we are told to actually
Hope
work.
so.
Yeah, we are told to work from home. So I was working from home today, and
Yeah, it's same thing here. They're like prepping us to start
yeah,
working from home.
yeah. And my
Yeah,
wife, she's a nurse. It's like so she's kind of like the vector. If someone gets in the house, it's gonna be her bringing it home.
Same here, man. Same
Oh,
here. I'm in the
really?
same boat. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
dude, check this out.
I feel it coming, man. It's not good.
We're screwed. Oh man. All right. So you guys can see my screen here, right? So you
Yeah, yeah,
see,
yeah.
I pull
Yes,
her
yes.
ears out. So I'm going full on into the elf idea that I was talking about the other day. So she's becoming kind of like a Mama Yoda, I guess. So yeah, I think I'm gonna embrace that. Uh, so today is like the last day of our week. And then what I normally do, I try to prepare this first week, like for you guys to be able to do, like quick renders to check the forms, like we did the other day. Um, Sketch something, it's like give some of those techniques, some of those tips on how to observe things, it's like camera lenses, all that stuff. And then in the last day, which is today, we normally do like a projection into the topology. And then from that point on, basically like all the iterations from now on are going to be on top of that topology, right? I mentioned before that I do expect you guys to be working in the same rhythm as I am. But, if over the weekend you guys can maybe like catch up a little bit, that would be great. At least you don't get too lost as we go forward. It's going to start getting a little bit steeper. We're going to be talking about a lot of like technical stuff next week, and we're going to be doing some studies about the skin and start adding detail and all that stuff. So it's going to start getting a little bit of like faster and faster. But today we're going to be talking to conform as the best you can, and then mask some areas you don't want to project, and then basically go chunk by chunk and use the project all function. And then in some cases you could use like the project brush, right? And the project brush is actually a Z project brush. Let's see. Project, right? So the Z project, you would do it, but the thing about the Z project is that it doesn't work like in symmetry. It kind of gets screwed up with symmetry, and on top of that, it has to be always facing the normal, right? So if you try to project something around the side like here, it's going to basically like it's mirror the whole thing. It's going to shoot towards the ear in there. So, but thank God, like since a couple of years ago, like not long ago, this software came along, and I thought it was pretty much like hype only. It's like the Z Wrap. It was a plugin, and then they have like this full-on software on the side. And I saw those videos, like demonstrating. It was like wrapping, it's like this totally different models into another one. I was like, that's hype. That's not gonna work. And it's really amazing stuff. It's like it's surprisingly great. Obviously, you have to be careful. There's a little of a learning curve about where to place those spots. Sometimes depending on the model, a few spots do the whole job. Just you can just mark a few points of reference between the two models, and it finds a lot of stuff on its own. And it's way faster that way. But sometimes, it's like it doesn't reach like the level of it doesn't find the main landmarks. And then in that case, I tend to add more points than I actually would need sometimes. But it's just because I don't want to be trying and going back and forth. It's like doing with a few points, and then it doesn't work, and then you have to redo the whole thing again. And so I'd rather just use more points. It takes longer to do the calculations and everything, because the more points you have, the more the longer the time to project everything. But then so yeah, it's gonna take probably like I'm calculating around like 2 maybe 3 minutes to do the whole projection. So let's try that. So the first thing we're gonna have to look for the software that does that whole magic thing, right? So let's see. We're gonna look for, you can just like Google, for example, Z Wrap like that, right? And then the first link is the Z Wrap R3DS. The R3DS is actually the main software that has all the functions of the Z Wrap. So it's kind of like a more robust based on nodes. I never used it, but I've seen people using it and some tutorials as well. It's all based on nodes, and apparently it does an amazing job with the, but I'm gonna tell you, like, just the Z-Wrap itself is quite amazing. It's in itself. Obviously, when you see those videos on YouTube, you're gonna see like the process of like shrink wrapping, almost like super fast. That's the sped up video. It takes a couple of minutes to actually process everything, but still pretty awesome. So basically, you can head to that website, Russian3dscanner.com, Z-Wrap. You can download it for free. It's gonna last like 30 days. Again, if you did this in the past and yours expired, the first ones to get me some emails, I think I have between 5 and 6 licenses that are, I think, like valid until October. So yeah, but if you don't need them, it's like if it's something just for the class, just to try it out, it's totally fine. Just download from here. And then to buy, I don't even know how much it costs. Let's see. They have the Z-Wrap for Windows, download for Windows. Let's how to upgrade. Oh, we have to be a customer, I guess. Let's see, indie. Oh, okay, so Z-Wrap for ZBrush, $99. And then professional, $249. Yeah, it gets a little steeper. And then students, Wrap is free for students, universities, and schools. So maybe like if you can just point to, to the website, for example, like you can say, oh, I'm doing this class with Chris Costa, like at Fly on the Wall studio. They might remember still, it's like that we were doing that, and then you might be able to get one, even though in most of those websites they ask you for like a certificate from the university you study. It's like has been pretty official, right? Like especially with Autodesk. I think those guys are a little bit more flexible. So I believe you can try to request like a free license with them, if that's the case. But for now, like I said, just download it. Hey.
Hello. Yeah. Actually, I did that and I got the license.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
They're very nice actually.
Yeah, they're super nice.
You can use it. Yeah.
They're super nice. One thing that they ask us every time is like, anytime you use it, especially since they are being so nice to us, they're saying like the only thing we request is just mention the name of the software. If you do anything with it,
yes.
Your post on Instagram, just mention. That's all they ask. So I try to do this every time too. So
thank you.
Download it, and then so the way it's gonna work is like this. You're gonna have to have a base mesh, and then obviously if you went to our Fly on the Wall, like to your let's see, let's go back here. Let's just go to my dashboard, just like you guys have in there. So under the dashboard, you're gonna have this. You're gonna have this support files, right? So the second one here, you have this one here, and I always give the disclaimer. It's like there is an object in there, a base mesh that's very simple. It was generated with basically like Z-Remesher, so it was like a quick sculpt with some Z-Remesher in it. So it doesn't have a perfect topology at all, but it's something usable. It's like some people actually use this one all the way to the final model. But I'm gonna tell you, if you want to create something that you have more control over the edge loops and everything, if you don't want to start from scratch, you can download this one. But make sure that you do some cleanup. It's like maybe delete some of those edges, redo a little bit of the flow. Get something that's a little better, that fits more your model. But if it's something you want to try just quickly, and you're happy with the topology the way it is, then you can download from here and just start using it straight away. It's watertight, and then again, like it's not a perfect topology at all, but it's something that you guys can use if you don't have anything. But it's like most of us here, we have at least like some base meshes we work in the past, so use whatever you guys want to do. So let's do this. Let's just import a base mesh I have here, and I'm gonna import like the base mesh from my African guy from last month, because it's the latest I have. All of them match the topology, so that's not the problem here. What I want to do with this guy is actually, because he's not an ideal mesh to work with, and I want to do this on purpose because there is a lingering problem that we have with those models in terms of symmetry, and I want to see if I can fix it in here and use the model like imperfect. So just to kind of like tell you guys that something might happen. and then we might have to, you know, it's like to fix it. So in this case here, you're gonna notice that the model is not symmetrical, right? There is a trick that I do, which is instead of like rotating the face, right, like rotating the head and then rotating the body, you know, it's like doing some twist. I actually keep the face in the same spot, and then I just twist the body itself. And then when I render, you know, it's almost like it gives the impression I can actually do a little rotation of the camera, like I said, like this, right, to create a little bit of imbalance. And then with the twist of the body, you cannot tell if what's twisted is the body or the face. I do this because that way I can still have access to a lot of the symmetry stuff, even though it's not completely symmetrical now. At least you can still use your symmetry, posable symmetry, right? And you still have access to some spots. So, you know, it's easier to correct certain things, like if you preserve that. So it's not an ideal model. And then what's going to happen here, if I try to go to deformation and try to do a smart resim, look at what's going to happen. Right? It's kind of breaking the model in there. So in Maya, in ZBrush, a lot of times, you know, it's like sometimes you get lucky and you can try like an S pivot, for example, and you do it, and then it gets better, like it did now. For example, like I tried the same thing, for example, before with the same model, and it didn't work like this. It basically like broke even much worse than this, right? So one thing you can try before you do anything here in ZBrush, you can actually do like a combination of both. You can use ZBrush to do a little bit of an untwist here, if that's the case, right? So I'm gonna just select very quickly here. Let's do select the mask, this one's lasso. So I'm gonna just select the face in here, something like that. I have my symmetry on, and then let's do a little bit more of the neck. And then click Control and then click inside the mask. You're gonna blur things, right? Just a little blur in there. And then I'm gonna just like do a little untwist of the rest of the body in here, just to get things a little bit more symmetric. So I'm gonna do maybe like from the bottom, and then, oops, symmetry off. It's just to untwist a little bit. I normally use those little lines here on this, you know, like just a guide, so I can actually use them almost like a ruler in there. So yeah, something like that, like a fast untwist. So the, you know, the Adam's apple here got a little screwed, so I'm gonna just like move it by hand. It doesn't need to be perfect. I mean, like I'm gonna be modeling the lady anyway. So in this case here, if I try to do a smart resim, it's not too bad. I mean, like it broke a little bit in the middle, right? But then let's say if something got really bad, you can try this. You can try to export your model. Let's export back to the ladies web, to the ladies folder here. So let's go like African and PMP 2. I had one in there before. And then, so now I have that guy in there, and let's try to go to Maya. So this happens sometimes. It knows like anything you try in ZBrush, sometimes it doesn't work at all, but you can use Maya for that. So you can just go to import, and then you're gonna go to your folder in there, OBJ, African temp 2, import. So now I have my guy in there. Let's turn off my grid. And then, so let's see what happens here. So now I have this topology in there, and you see that this topology is very stretched in here. Originally, I planned this model to be just like stop right here, close to the clavicle. But because this guy I want to sculpt some more, I actually got all the polygons I had underneath because it was watertight, and I pulled them out to be able to actually sculpt a little bit more of a chest and shoulders, right? But most of the geometry is here, actually. So let's take a look at this. So the model, I want to try to do some symmetry pass here in Maya first. What you can try to do is this. You go where you see like symmetry off in there. You can try to click topology. So you just like drop down topology. Right click, edge. So click edge. And then, so actually, let's just go topology. And then you click the edge right here. It can be any edge right in the middle. So you can just click that one. And now you see like it's actually following the topology anywhere I go, right? So that's pretty cool. So now to be able to resymmetry the whole thing, you have to select something in the model. It can be a face or a vertex, for example. So you're going to right-click the model and then click face, for example, and then you select the entire thing. You can just go to Edit Mesh, and then you say Symmetry, Symmetrize, right? So you do that, now the model is symmetrical. You might find some stuff, for example, like some of those lines in here, because they're kind of out of center before. Now they're too close to each other, so you can do a little smooth. You can either do this here or in ZBrush. If you want to do it here, you can go to your mesh tools, sculpting tools, and then you have the relax. You can actually click the option box. So we have these options right here. And you see that the symmetry is already selected because I did it before in there, right? Press B and then click left click and then just slide, right? Just drag. So to change the size of the brush. And now we can just like go overhead and just like do something like this. Just like relax things. And it's relaxing by using this this button here, this checkbox, constraint to surface. So it's basically just sliding stuff around without messing up the forms too much. I'm just going to do that around the model a little bit. Just make sure things are a little bit more distribution, a little better. So around here, that's the main problem we had. To close, just smooth. You know, sometimes you can just do like a full-on straightaway projection and then deal with stuff later. But I'd rather do a little bit of cleanup before, just to, you know, prevent some major problems that might happen down the line with the projection. So I'm just gonna smooth this thing out a little bit. And then let's see the backing here. Seems like it's okay. This part here is a little funny. Just relax things a little bit. All right, so that should be good enough. Yeah, actually this part here I missed right there. That's the main one I was saying before, so right there. Just relax that area, there you go. Okay, so the tricky part for projection is always like the pockets, you know, the inside of the eyes and then inside of the mouth. Those things are always like a little bit of a headache sometimes. And I'd rather lose a little bit of my sculpting that I had in my sketch and then just reconstruct it. But as much as possible, we're gonna just try to project everything. So let's try. Let's freeze reset. Actually, I deleted the history, then freeze reset. So the model should be, actually, for some reason, is not in the middle. Why is that? Freeze. Oh, the model is off center, I guess. Look at that. Yeah, the model is off center. So that's gonna be a problem if I don't fix it. So I'm gonna make sure that's kind of like close enough to the center in here. And then ZBrush is gonna have a much easier time just like making the symmetry work if it's in the center. So now that's in the center, see that my manipulator in here is off center. You're gonna click again to freeze and reset. Now it's in the center or pretty close to it. And now I'm gonna export this guy. Oh, another thing I can try here. Remember that my old lady, her face was right above this line, the ground level. So I'm gonna try to do this. Why is it taking so long? It's weird. Shouldn't take that long. And then, so now, instead of using this guy here, because sometimes when you use the same model, things get a little screwed up in ZBrush, so I'm gonna just like do it fresh. So I'm gonna just go to Subtool, Delete, and now I'm gonna click my trusty little star in there, and then I'm gonna import it right here. So temp 3. So the model should be symmetrical, but let's just try the ZBrush symmetry now, just to make sure that things are working. So I can do a test like just pull one side like that, and then deformation, smart resim. See, the average is correct. Now everything is working. I'm gonna just click it again. So now it's a perfectly symmetrical model. So that's a good start for projecting the lady to it, right? So let's see how that works. I'm gonna click in the model itself that I have my sketch, with no topology. Actually, I have some topology. That's the one I created with to demonstrate the Z-remesher, right? It was kind of like just so I could have access to multiple levels like that. But at this point here, it doesn't matter. You could have gone all the way up to this point using Sculptress. It wouldn't matter at all, or Dynamesh. All we need is just the forms. We're not looking for, it's like the, super fine stuff. It's just the forms themselves. And I went all the way up to 2.6 million polygons, but we don't need everything. I can keep this model in here as a buffer, and I can project later the rest of the details. But let's say like I can go to one subdivision level less, around like 600,000. I don't need more than this just for the projection. And then now let's just append, and let's get our mesh here, right? And let's make sure we put the face a little bit closer to the position of her face. So let's get this guy here. You can even click the transparency if you want. I'm gonna turn off the perspective with pressing P, like Paul. And then I'm gonna move it close enough to her face. Make sure the proportions are close, it's like maybe like mesh the eyes first. And then I can even move the pivot, click Alt, and then you can manipulate. Just place it in there with Alt, and then just rotate a little bit just to get closer to that angle of her face. Something like that. All right, let's see. So now it's close enough. Now, one thing you're going to try to do, I'm going to try to make the eyes a little bit closer to her eyes in terms of size and position. And I'm going to do this with a big brush. Because when I'm doing this, I want to make sure, I'm going to use symmetry here. I'm going to make sure that the pocket inside is actually moving around as well. And we're going to be masking that pocket. So later we can actually recover whatever is in there. But for now, we're going to just try to pull this stuff. You can use Alt and then move just to pull stuff out. Bring it up a little bit in there. This one. A lot of the work is going to be done by Z-Wrap, but I like to do a little bit of planning here to prevent, like a lot of redo and rework later. So I'm just going to try to get at least like the eyes, the opening of the eye here in the correct position. So let's bring this one down a little bit.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I couldn't get my microphone working a couple minutes ago when you were talking about Z-Wrap.
Uh-huh.
I emailed your website, but I was wondering if you had any more of the monthly pass things. I used mine in one of your previous videos.
If I have a monthly what?
Like the license?
Yeah, I still have like 5 or 6.
Sweet.
Yeah. I guess I can send you one. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. And then, and then here I'm gonna do the same, like a similar approach here for the nose, although I don't need to, but it's just because I'm more concerned about the pockets, it's like, which is like the inside of the mouth. And so, for example, like the lips, I'm moving around here. I'm gonna try to match as close as I can, like the opening. So I'm gonna try to do, I don't need to pay attention like to this area here of the edges of the lips, but at least like really like the connection between the two lips in here. I want to try to match as the best I can. It doesn't need to be super precise. It's just like that can prevent a lot of trouble down the line. So I'm just gonna get, let's see, with the transparency and maybe like ghost. So I'm gonna try to get this opening closer to what she has. So let's try one thing here. Let's see if from the side how. Okay, so her lips end a little bit shorter, is around here, and then everything else is kind of like a wrinkle. So I'm gonna go up here. Something like that, and then let's try to just approximate this a little bit more. So that's good enough right there. And then let's see, that's good around there. And let's see, oh, a little lower. I'm just using like Alt and Move here to just like bring it back and forth. Yeah, it's like good enough in there. I'm gonna have to do some resculpting in there, just make sure it's perfect at the end. But just for us to start, I think good enough. So now you see, like I didn't match a lot of stuff. It was basically like eyes and mouth. So let's look why I did this. So let me just go back to this guy. Now he has this very weird face, right? Looks like a little pig. And then, so I'm gonna go to my poly groups. I'm gonna check in here. Since I just imported the OBJ, I don't have any poly groups. But this model here already has UVs, right? And ideally, you would have to have UVs in your model as well. So yeah, I can even talk about this because I would talk about the topology and all this stuff like next week. But because we're gonna be dealing with this and I want you guys to understand the processing here, although we are not gonna be using you know, it's like any UVs for projection at this point. It's mostly like for exporting maps later on. I can just do like a quick introduction to what I have in here, and then we can just move from that point. You know, it's like I'm going to be talking into more detail next week. But the way I have this layout for this polygons is like this. If I go to Window, Modeling, and then UV Editor, it's not like an example of perfection, but that's basically what I have in here. I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 maps, right? So each one of those squares here in Maya is showing like one of the UDIMs. And as you can tell, I have the faces split right in the middle, and some people are concerned about seams and everything. But I would say like if you're not using HD geometry, it's more likely you're gonna get seams, but with HDs, I don't get it, you know, I don't get seams. And even if you have the risk of getting it, you still can increase the buffer in ZBrush to actually create you know, it's like instead of 4, I can use like 10 pixels. So basically like the last color right at the edge is gonna be extended 10 pixels to prevent like, you know, it's like having any seam against the next piece. So so the reason why I have like 5 UDIMs like that, right? If you come from games, for example, you're probably going to use just a single UDIM for the entire thing for a body, and another UDIM or 2 for, you know, clothing, accessories, and stuff. So it's normally like very few maps you use, but you have to remember you're trying to create something that's hyper detailed, right? We're going to create something that the face and the shoulders themselves are going to have probably like 70 to 90 medium polygons right there. And so it's very different from the approach for a game, for example. And then we want to make sure we have enough maps to accommodate all this detail into it, right? So I normally do like a little quick calculation like that. I did this like in the videos as well. Probably like I do every time, like for those classes, you probably saw some of this. But just like a recap here, if you didn't get the concept of it. So basically, like I have to calculate how many polygons is going to be my ideal final number for my face and shoulders, right? I would say I would not pass like 100 to 120 million polygons if you're sculpting just the face and the shoulders. You know, it's like otherwise going to be overkill. In my case here, I have only 72 million polygons. I still can get like pretty much like poor detail mostly everywhere. But around like the cheeks around here, for example, you're going to see I have a lot of concentration of polygons around those areas, right? So I'm going to get more detail in here. But you see like the size of this polygon here in relation to the size of this polygon here is very different, right? Same for this one that I stretched in here. This one I was not too concerned because I had like a plug in there. So it would never see any detail in there. But between this area and that area, I can tell you that I can put like easily a lot of pore detail right there, but not so much in here. I can put the pores, but they always look a little bit blurry. You know, it's like if you look really closely, obviously. But overall, it works fine, you know. So one concern is always like to have a good distribution, like polygon distribution, to accommodate all the detail in those areas. But just remember that even if you don't have a perfect distribution, this model is going to go so high in resolution, close to, you know, 70, 100 million polygons, that at the end, you're definitely going to be able to put pores everywhere. It's just that the pore is going to be a little bit more defined in certain areas than others, but, you know, it should be fine overall. But it's just that the way it works, you know, it's like it's a polygon subdivided, you know, subdivide one time, you get 4 polygons, subdivide another one, you know, each one of them going to create another 4 and so on. So you have to be aware that this distance between them and how spread out they are going to affect the amount of detail. So back here to the model. So in order to plan a base mesh, let's say like you don't have a base mesh just yet. You have a sketch, just like we did this past couple of days. And then you're going to say like, okay, Chris's model is like has 72 million polygons, but he's saying that it doesn't have like enough detail in certain areas. So to cover my butt, I'm gonna, plan my model to have 85 million instead. So if you go to 85 million polygons like that, that's like your goal. Okay, my HD geometry mesh is gonna have 85 million polygons. So the way you plan your base mesh is very simple. You just divide this by 4 many times, right? So we're gonna do divided by 4, divided by 4, divided by 4, divided by 4, divided by 4. 83,000 polys would be an option, right? 83,000, or even lower than that. So you would pick like either 20,000 or 83,000 polys, and then, or 21, close to 21, right? So now you're sure you have, it's like a certainty that if you subdivide this mesh that many times, like 4, 5, 6 times, you're going to reach that ideal number that you planned at first, right? So that's how you plan it. So in this case here, if you want a mesh that's 85 million polygons, either you go for 20.7 thousand polys, or you go for 83,000 polys, right? So it keep dividing this by 4. So actually multiplying by 4. So you're going to go like times 4, times 4, times 4, times 4, times 4. You got back to the 85, right? So so that's how you plan the mesh. Now, in order to plan the mesh, obviously, you don't have an automatic way to create like this exact same amount of polys. So you're gonna have to be smart about like double clicking and deleting some edges and then deleting certain areas, optimizing other things to be able to achieve that number that's close enough to that number you want. So it's just like basically like modeling 101, right? If you do modeling, you know how to delete vertices and edges and things like that and plan a base mesh. So I'm not going to get too much into detail on that. Now, when it comes to the amount of UDIMs, this is kind of overkill. I have like 5 UDIMs. I could get away with like 4 or maybe even 3. But I normally like to have a little bit more buffer, It's like just in case. I think I got used to the way that we work professionally, which is basically like people are projecting stuff using Mari. And then they'd rather have more maps so they can have like more room for detail than, than doing something, for example, in ZBrush. But so I carry a little bit of that legacy, but at the same time, I rather have like 1 or maybe 2 maps more than not having it. And the reason is that I'm not sure about like what's the percentage of the usage of each one of those aisles, There's a script, like back in the day, we had a script that calculated that. Maybe Mice has this now. I never tried it. But it gives you like the exact percentage of usage for each one of those aisles. But, it's just like, to me, it's just like eyeballing it for me works fine. I don't need like absolute precision for that. So back to that theory that we had before. Let's talk about the 85 million polygons, right? So let's keep that number in mind. If you guys have an intention to create a model that's 85 million polygons for sculpting like fine detail pores for a full head and shoulders. So let's do this. Talking about like the theory here for each one of those maps, ZBrush works with pixels, right? Like it's a bunch of pixels placed in space. Each pixel is basically like one point in space, a pixel in space, right? They say pixel instead of vertice because originally ZBrush was a 2.5D application, right? So everything was a pixel, pixel with depth. So basically like pixel with depth is called pixel. That's why they call the company Pixelogic, right? In order to accommodate, like, let's say all the pixels possible in this frame here, basically like the resolution for the maps that people use the most is 4K maps. So it's like a 4K square map. So a 4K map, it means like you have 4,096 points or pixels by 496 vertical as well. So if you multiply this 496 times 496, you get that theoretical almost 17 million points possible here, or pixels, right? You have like a possibility of close to 17 million pixels. So in order to calculate how many maps we're going to need, we're going to have to do a little math in here, which is not very complicated. So for example, if I'm considering this little square here with, it's like 17, close to 17 million polygons. And I'm going to have to use of the amount of usage I have like for this space. So I try to grow, those objects in here, my mesh, as much as I can to use as much as I can of this area. So like the face goes pretty far, right? I could grow even further here and use it a bit more, but it works fine. So I have like now, let's pretend eyeballing, I would say like maybe I'm using 50% of this space. Maybe it's a little bit more than that, but I'm gonna go for the lower number that I think. So 50%, so I'm gonna divide that 16 million polygons, which is the possible amount, I'm gonna divide by 2. So now I can tell that I'm gonna need 8 million polygons. It's like this is gonna give me around like 8 million polygons only, right, at 50%. So if I do the same for each one of those aisles here, if I consider each one is using 50% of the possible close to 17 million polygons, so I'm gonna know that if I multiply this 8 million, which is the 50% usage, by 5, I only have 41 million polygons possible with this current layout I have right here, right? So if you're using 4K maps, which is the origin of our calculation here was based on 4K maps, right? If I'm using 4K maps to accommodate 85 million polygons, I would have to have at least double this. So I would have 10 UDIMs, right? And gonna need probably another one. So like it would be basically like 11 UDIMs to accommodate 4K maps at a 50% usage approximately, right? So that's the way I calculate. But now you're gonna ask like, why you have 5 then? Well, I could get away with the 3 or 4, like I said before, because my intention is always to use 8K maps. Now, this is gonna be up to you guys. If your computer cannot handle the 8K maps, for example, like if you have low memory, then I would stick with 4K maps. You're gonna have more of them loading to memory, but maybe it's gonna be better if you convert like to TX files later. But yeah, in my case here, you just use like 8K maps and they load straight to the memory and get it done. So let's do the calculation again using 8K maps. So 8K maps are basically like double 4K, right? So 8192 times 2. Oops. Yeah, so that's basically 8192 times, 8192. One times the other one. So each one, if I'm working with 8K maps, each one of those aisles here, each one of these UDIMs, gonna have a possible 67 million polygons possible in one single map with the 8K. But because I'm using only 50%, that's gonna be a possible 33 million polygons per UDIM. So now, if I multiply this by the 5 UDIMs that I have the possibility of having like 167 million polygons in only 5 maps used at 50% usage for each one of them. So let's do it again, like 8192 times 8192. So that one, let's see if I multiply by 4. Actually, by 4, and I'm gonna have to divide this by 2, right? So 134, it's for 4 maps. So 4 maps, that's why I'm saying like, it's like I could go as far as, it's like as low as 3 maps here, and I would be able to cover the entire 85 million polygons. So you can try that, as long as you're using like 50% of the model. So let's try that again for 3 maps. So 8192, and then I'm gonna divide this by 2 to get the 50%, and then times 3. So with 3 maps at 8K, you could reach like 100 million polygons. So you see, like I could, for example, like in this case here, replan my model and just have 3 maps and use 8K maps, and it would be done with it. The cool thing about that is that you would save a lot of memory. And for example, if we're gonna use like a GPU render, you wanna make sure that you have the least amount of maps and it's like the most optimized possible, right? So eventually I might switch this to like 3 maps only and really plan it in a way that I can actually get everything at 50%. But then for now, I'm gonna keep the way it is here, but just so you know, that's the principle behind like the number of maps that you're gonna need, right? So I think it's like a kind of like, it sounds complex, but it's not. It's like, it's pretty straightforward. So before you do the projection in here, either you can have your maps already prepared and everything ready to go, or you can simply go ahead and just do your, it's like your decimation, whatever you need to do to clean up the model to reach that ideal number first, right, for the base mesh, that you know when you subdivide, you're gonna reach that perfect number at the end, and then leave the UVs for later. You know, you don't need UVs at this point yet. So next week, if you wanna worry about it, or over the weekend, then we can do that, but not right now. But that's basically like just the scoop about what you're gonna have to be concerned about if you wanna plan a nice mesh to project stuff. So now let's look at how this thing works. I have my model here, the base mesh, which is this guy at the top, and I have my old lady in the second layer. They're both visible in here, right? And my old lady, instead of like being at the highest level, which is 2.6 million, I'm at one subdivision level lower than that, so it's 655. So I'm gonna click like the first guy, like the base mesh, and I'm gonna go to, after you install the Z-Wrap, it's gonna pop right here under Z plugin, and you're gonna have the start Z-Wrap. So let's see what happens here. So now those views are synchronized. By default, they are not. So basically, like, they're independent, right? You can do this. But then if you click sync views, the first thing you're gonna do, they're gonna synchronize. So now you can see things from all angles. And it's pretty much like OpenGL. So, it's like fast interaction. The reason why I brought her with not so many polygons, because, first is overkill, and second, because it's faster to see things when they're a little bit lower res. So there are a couple of options in here. There is one here. If I try to put a point in here, for example, you see, just put in one side, right? So let's click the X for symmetry. And now I can put like 2 points at a time, perfectly symmetrical, right? Same for this side here. If I try it's just 1 point, I can turn on the symmetry, and then there's 2 points, right? So the whole principle here is super simple. It's about like getting correspondent points. So the way this works is like this. Like you can start picking correspondent areas. For example, we're gonna get like this little corner of the nostril here, or maybe like even here, maybe here. And then I'm gonna click in this side here, a point that's close enough to that. Doesn't need to be perfect, but obviously like the closer you get, the better. So let's see like the corner of the mouth. I mentioned before that his mouth is a little bit wider than hers. So I'm gonna find like the actual corner of the mouth right here, something like that. And then let's say in her case, it's gonna end around there. Let's go for some other stuff. Like this area here is gonna be, it's always like the mouth and the eyes are the tricky ones. So let's do the easy stuff first. You can get some corresponding stuff. Let's say, oh, I forgot to actually, man, I think I'm gonna get out just for a second, okay? Because I wanna make sure that his ears are not so different from hers. So I'm gonna just like remove that big deformed thing in there. So let's just do a masking here. I'm actually using a mask by topology, right? You know how it works. You just like click either move, scale, or rotate, and then you click control and then click and drag. So you can actually select by topology. And then so I'm just like selecting by topology and just leaving the ears in there. And I'm just gonna smooth this thing. Kind of recover a little bit of that form that was pretty stretched before. Doesn't need to be perfect, it's just close enough. Because the forms themselves gonna come from the old lady's ears. And she has that very pointy ear as well, so I could go and like maybe pull a little bit further, but I'm gonna try as a test not doing that. I'm gonna just fix this one, but I'm gonna hope that the software gonna be smart enough to do that. Oh, one thing I forgot to do, guys, I'm sorry. This is important actually, and I totally forgot. So if I click here, I have my polygroups, right? So the polygroups are completely, so there are no polygroups assigned yet. It's just a single one because I just brought this OBJ from Maya. So I'm gonna go to polygroups, And then if I click auto groups, nothing's gonna happen. It's gonna just change color, right? But because I already have the UDIMs assigned, if I click UV groups, now you're gonna see each one of those areas here is one of the UDIMs. But I want to have more control than this. Remember when I was showing the Maya scene, you have like, you don't have like all the objects like connected, right? You have like those little tiny pieces separate from each other. So each one of those, I want to create like a different polygroup. So to do that, in ZBrush, you just tell ZBrush to do auto groups with UV. So it's going to split into those tiny little pieces that correspond to your UDIMs, right? So let's do a couple of things here. I'm going to click Shift Control and then click this area. And then you can just open a window outside. It's still selecting Shift Control, then click and drag a little window. So it reverses it, right? You can tell that's just a single-sided object. To fix that, you can just scroll all the way down and then display properties and a double. I can see the inside in there. So let's get that pocket inside of the mouth and the pockets inside of the eyes, right? And also I have a couple of pockets right here. Those are the eardrums. They're very deep in there. Don't even know why they're so deep. So now I'm gonna basically like select this one here, this one, and this one. I'm hiding just those parts. And basically like this is what I want to conform to the old lady. But then everything else, this stuff here, I want it to be frozen for now. So basically what I'm gonna do is just gonna click Control and then mask. So Control and then click outside, right? Create this mask. And then Control Shift and then click outside. And then I'm basically unhiding it. So now what I have is like those areas are masked. So the side of the mouth and the are masked, right? And then another step to do here, let me just turn this one off. I can actually go and even paint the mask a little bit further to make sure that doesn't affect certain areas. So let's go to this guy. Maybe too much in there, but yeah. We're gonna have to try it and see. But those are very tricky sometimes, like to get perfect, you know. So what I'm gonna do, extra step to make sure that we have a little bit more control. I'm gonna select and create a morph target for it. Just gonna try to add a little bit more here. One thing you can do as well, you can actually grow the mask if you are trying to catch like all the way to the edge in here. One thing that you can use is go to, let's say, where is it? Masking. And you can just say grow mask. And then you can go and say sharpen mask. Then you're gonna grow again, sharpen again. So now it's like, you basically create the mask all the way to the edge in there, right? So, and obviously here you grow a little bit too much, right? But this is like an option you have if you wanna grow, you know, it's like the mask from that point, it would do it. So I'm gonna keep around there, and then I'm gonna just unmask this area around the lips. So I'm gonna just do a Control-Alt, mask all the way here and there, and keep just like close to where the lips connect in there. So now all masked inside, the pockets in there, and then the shoulders. So now we can enter ZWrap again. So let's do that. Start ZWrap. Now it should be easier for us to control certain things. I mean, like sometimes you can just do like a very, you know, rough job, and ZWrap does a great job. I just don't want to go to that spot that I need to keep redoing stuff to make sure that's perfect, you know. So I'm gonna try to get as much as possible here. So let's do it again. Let's go fast here. That one corresponding to that spot right there. Let's get this corner here corresponding to this one. Corner of the lips around there. This one is going to be an important one around here, right? So we're going to get this little, I have to bring it all the way down around here. Same for the bottom lip. So I'm going to get around here, and I'm going to bring it all the way up here. And then let's get some other stuff, like maybe like the chin around here. Some stuff it can be overkill sometimes. And like I said, just a few points sometimes do the job. So around here and here. Let's get like the jaw around here corresponding to that. I could even go like all the way to the little dot, little connection right there. Let's get some other landmarks like this to this. Let's get this to that. This is going to be the tricky one. I'm going to get this point to this. I'm not sure if this is going to work, by the way, but I'm actually curious to test to see what happens in there. And I'm going to just add some other, maybe like the root of it and maybe the middle of it, just so he knows how much it needs to stretch. Also right here to right here. And I think that should be good. Let's put another one. Like I said, the more points you put, the longer it takes to project, but I just want to make sure things go one-to-one. Let's get this point here because there's a little curvature around there. And then to that. This is going to be an important one here, like this inside. Sometimes it gets a little confusing here, so I'm going to have to add a few points. So I'm going to get one around here, right there. Actually, let's get a little closer. And then maybe like from here to here. The tip of the nose, I'm going to add one as well, because it changes the shape. So I'm going to go here, all the way from here. I'm going to bring this whole thing from out to in to correct that distortion in there. And then let's get some stuff here. So let's see, corner of the eye, the other corner around there to here, maybe lower right there. And then the thing that's tricky here is because remember, like I embedded her eyelids inside in there. So I'm probably gonna have to do some manual work unless I did a better planning before and I pulled this whole fold to cover it a lot before. That would definitely help as well. But so I'm gonna have to try and possibly gonna have to do some manual working here. It's yeah, it's something I'm gonna have to try. But I can try to pull that to cover it. I'm not sure if it's gonna work, but let's say if I do something like from here, and then this point from here, very close to it around here. I'm not sure if this is gonna work. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to save the the morph target, but we can fix that. I can show you a little trick in there. The morph target would be great to actually just help with this whole situation. Oh, no, I'm doing everything wrong here. Actually, let's do this. I have to define this. That's correct, but then I'm actually have to take in account that this is a fold that's going and extending all the way up. So yeah, I'm gonna have to do this. That double fold is a different fold that I have to observe. So let me just do this again. I'm gonna click this one. I'm gonna bring it all the way here. And that one is gonna be around here. So I'm gonna have to extend this whole thing in hope that he's gonna be able to figure it out, because it's a different, very different type of eyelid that I have in there. So let's do a couple of like generic ones. So for example, like the brow ridge here all the way. Let's get around here. Always double check if the numbers are corresponding, okay? Because sometimes if you forget to click the same corresponding number, you can get in big trouble in there because all of a sudden you're gonna have to redo everything, right? But you see a temporalis line here, it don't need to put a lot of stuff in here from this point on. And then let's just get some stuff around the body now. Remember that I'm projecting this stuff to a model that has shoulders. So I'm just gonna do something like click those points and put them close to maybe here. And this one is gonna be around there. And then this to this. And maybe I can stretch this as much as that Let's see if we need anything in the back. Maybe like the base of the cranium right there. And I think that should be it, you know. I think we have plenty. Maybe like, let's see, this correspondent here. And maybe like one in the cheeks. That's it. This one to this one around here. Yeah, that should be enough, you know. And then all this stuff here is going to be ignored because it's masked, right? Just for the sake of it. Oops, do a separate. So let's try that. So once you have that, you're just going to switch to wrapping here. I'm just concerned about the lips, if everything is going to work okay. I'm going to have to try that, but hoping for the best. Do I have enough in the jawline? Maybe one extra. So let's try that. So wrapping. So you see, like I have like this overlapping model, and then you can do this. You can click max scale, for example, right? Kind of pop it a little bit further, and then you can say rigid alignment. So you try to approximate the, you know, the vertices a little bit closer to each other. So you see the corresponding 35, 33. This one's going to have to move a lot, 41, right? Those ones going to have to move a lot right here. But overall, that's basically what's going to do, you know, pull this one 8 until you match 8 in there. So let's wrap it. Let's see what happens. So let's do a start wrapping, this one here. And it's going to do a fast pass first. Going to match a lot of stuff already from the get-go. But then it's going to do another 2 passes refining it. So you see, like, this is a generic pass right there. Seems like the back of the head in there might be in trouble. Let's see what's going to happen. See, that I didn't know that one. I could actually use some help in there with a little point holding the ear since I'm pulling so far. But that's a learning curve in here, I suppose. You know, I never did with those pointy ears. Let's see what's going to happen with it. Sometimes it's surprising what it does, you know, it's like it's so spot on. But in this case here, I definitely need a little bit, maybe just one extra point behind the ear because they're so different. Normally when you do like a normal ear to normal ear, you don't need much, you know, it's just like very, very little points in there. It's funny, like you watch the videos, the demos, and you always see like this super fast process, you know, and it's not that fast, but it's not that slow either. It takes a few minutes and better than projecting everything by hand. Now the eyes, I can tell there's a lot of, you know, trying there, but it's actually having a little bit of trouble trying to figure it out. Let's see how good of a job it's going to be around the eyes. Anything else that doesn't work, I'm going to do like a manually in there, but let's try it first. Yeah, it's a shame I didn't put a point in there. It would be so much better. And I'm concerned about, yeah, definitely the upper lid is the one that had that problem with trying to stretch too much. Let's see if it's going to relax a little bit more. I never tried this the other software they have, the one that has all the functions and the nodes, but people swear by it. It has a ton of more functions, you know. I think you can save a lot of stuff too. This one you can save as well, you know. It's like you can save all those points and then you can just load it. So you don't need to do this every time.
Chris?
Yes.
Yeah, I've actually worked professionally with the full version.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it's we do that with a lot of scan and for like scan expression and
yes.
stuff. And the nodes part, are really useful for batching and
Ah.
not really for like what you're doing here.
Uh-huh.
It's a good program. It's a simple interface, and because it's one program for one use, it's really focused. You know, it's not a lot of weird stuff you're never gonna use.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the node part is mainly to reuse and like stabilization of scans between themselves and those
yeah.
kind of really boring stuff. But the
Uh-huh.
part using here, it's really great for ZBrush. I think they took all the best part and put it in it.
Yeah, right. Like this, like if it's for a single mesh, yeah, definitely. So that's good. Good to know. It's more like for optimization for a pipeline, right? Like a repetitive tasks
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. But for you, yeah, like for I think the ZBrush version, which I never used, it's good enough for everything I would plan for myself for a single character. I think I wouldn't need the other one. You're not missing a lot. I think that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good to know. So you just saved me some money. I was about to buy it. No, I wasn't. But yeah, I mean, like for what I need, you're completely right. I mean, like I always use this version just do the job. You know, it's great.
Yeah, they have a good video tutorial about those features. So maybe if there is one, because there's a few, I don't know for what use you could have some. Yeah, I would say no, but look it up in their website. You have a few videos for each features. It's really well made.
Yeah. Those guys are great, man. And yeah, you see, like I got a little bit of trouble with the top lid, like I mentioned before. It wasn't able to actually untangle that, and this one actually pulled a little bit further than what I needed. But overall, let's see what this does, because now we're gonna go to the second part, which is the projection in ZBrush. So I'm gonna go back to the select points in here, and I'm gonna go to let's see, where is it? Save. Let's save a file in here, just in case if we need to use it later. So let's do to save Chris personal projects, and then tribal lady. Let's go to ZBrush and let's go C wrap 1, just in case if we need to reload this. But yeah, definitely next time I'm gonna do this now, so maybe I can try to do another Z-wrap later, just try. But I would probably like put a point, maybe like one here, just to hold this in place. Yeah, something like that. I just realized I don't have any here. Well, I'm gonna put those ones, and I'm gonna still do everything in ZBrush in there, but then for my reference later, I might try to reproject again. So let's try this, save. There you go. And then let's get it done. Oh man, oh dude. I didn't know you would completely eliminate the wrapping. That's one thing I wasn't foreseeing. Okay, so let's do something here. Since we have it saved, let's just cancel this. Let me export this lady to my Maya, and then we're gonna get distracted while this doing something in the background for us, so we can catch up with Maya and do some more tasks in there. So let's see, sketch scale. Just let's do a like a let's see, Asian lady or elf, lady elf. I was calling her lady elf. Let's see, high res 1. Let's export that. And let me just like do this wrap again here, but then let it work in the background while we're doing something in Maya. So start ZWrap. Let me just make sure that I load that file, and I hope it's there and it's working. Let's see, done. So let's go to load, ZWrap. So cool. Oh, I didn't save the other side. Oh man, such a mess. Okay, that was a waste of time. Oh, I forgot that it's like it's 2 different settings. Kill me now. What should I do, man? Should I do it again? Oh, it sucks, dude. Let me try. I'm gonna try. Let's see if I can do something to at least get back in the. Let's see. It's gonna be like a pain if I do like this. Like try to find out. I'm gonna try. It's gonna be like pain to just find them. Yeah, I would have to do again, like for both sides, I guess. Is that possible to copy over?
No, Chris. Yeah, one thing you can do for the future, sadly,
Uh-huh.
but I don't know if it works on that version. It looks like it should, but the point are actually a reference for the between interpolation between vertex. So you can save one and keep it forever as long as you maintain the sequence to another. So if you have a low poly that you use on every one, that's what I did with the batching, and you just pick it in the right order. You can change. I don't think you can on that one, but as you should only do it once, basically.
Right? I thought like oh man, I could swear that this was like saved for both. I didn't realize they have like two different saves.
Yeah, that's an annoying. I feel your suffering, and I've encountered many more disappointment with that process because it's really foreign in every ways.
Yeah. And now I'm kind of like trying to look for like the numbers in here and see if I can speed up a little bit. But let's try. Let's do a little bit because
the worst part,
right?
No, the worst part is usually you orbit around and you put points as you think, and you realize you have like 0.200 next to 3, and you're like, where is 4? Somewhere on the face, and you're like, so many points.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man, it's such a pain, but
you tend to develop a workflow where, like, around the eyes. I've done it so many times. It make me
very angry.
yeah. But you tend to do that at the specific points, and I tend also to use less and less point over time because we realize that the system are actually really good because the point are just for reference, but also for just for, like, how do you call that, surface tension? It's even a word, which is basically like how the topology is spread out on the surface.
Oh, yeah. I'm always surprised how good it works, man.
Exactly. Basically, it works so good that adding a point, like your imprecision, actually prevent it to make a better work. You know what I mean? Like, because we were doing on scans and we were lining up diffuse, also like skin pores from bake 1 to the scan 1, and we realized, like, if we put less point, the result went better.
Yeah,
it's actually really surprising.
Yeah, it was. I was surprised too. Like I tried once with like less point. That's why I was saying before. You know, it's like it's a learning curve. Sometimes you put too many, and then
exactly. That's the worst part.
Yeah.
Because it's so much time putting them.
Yes, exactly.
As if you put too little, also the computation is
62. I'm looking for 63, 64. Let's see. Now it's gonna get a little bit more. Okay, 62, right there, and then I need to find 64 just to do it. Down there, I guess. Yeah, there you go. 64. I think I put this guy right there, and then 66 around here, 68 around there. And then let's see, not many more. 72. Write it up. I put the other ones. So where am 68, and then okay, 68, 70. Okay, 70 is right here. 70, and then 72. I saw it before. It was around 71, 72. Okay, 72 is in the back. 72, and then 74. It was right here. I'm just gonna set this up, and then we're gonna go to Maya to do some more working there. So 74, and then what's missing here now? 76 is actually right here in the cheeks. And 78, top of the head. We have, where's 80? Oh, right there, okay. So 80 right here. And then, it's the kind of stuff, it's like sometimes things are very smooth, but then it's the kind of stuff that if you're doing yourself, right? Like you're kind of like you're on your own, you're probably gonna have a much easier time. But if you're trying to explain and do stuff at the same time, it's very distracting sometimes. So that's my excuse, which is true. Let's see, 88. So now I think I got all of them. I believe I have all of them. I'm gonna save this one as well as zwrap2, just in case. And I think I have all the points in place. 88. So we're gonna just like run it and then leave it. So let's see, wrapping, match alignment, and hope for the best. Let's see if it starts wrapping, we are good. Yeah, apparently it's gonna work. So let's get out of here and let it do its thing, and we'll come back a little bit later. So let's go back to Maya here. Let's open our shot that we had yesterday, which was, oh, I can talk about this. I don't know if you noticed yesterday, I posted this renders, which I can show you guys here under PS. This one's here. I can talk a little bit about this setup that I'm using here, and it goes like this. I think it's a cool one for you guys to try out. So I'm gonna open this one. It's called the clay one. I used for an old project that was the Oracle, and I did this renders like to look like clay. So I can just give you guys like, for example, like the settings for the clay stuff that I have. Now the only trick here is that in the past I was not using aces, and now I'm using aces for the color correction, color space. So now my renders are kind of looking like this, and it's more saturated than I had before. So it's not like ideal, but it's working. So let's see, yeah, something like that. You can actually correct exposure if something is a little bit funky in there, just to see in here, or you can do it as a post right in Maya. But let's talk about like the way I have this set up here. So my setup for the entire scene looks like this. It's like I have this curtain in here, which I duplicated like 3 times. So I have like kind of like actually 2 times in this case. I used to have 3. And the way I created this curtain was using end cloth in Maya. So I created like a plane that was very, very high res. It's been such a long time, I don't even remember how it works, but I'm pretty sure you can find a little tutorial online. But basically the principle was to create like just like one single plane, a vertical plane with enough subdivisions. And then you can actually attach the top of this plane to a pole, for example, or to any object and create a constraint. So what I did, I had this pole in there with this plane constraint to it. And then I added another plane in the bottom of the curtain. And then I started I created an animation. First I made this one soft, and then I made the other one collision object, like a rigid object. And I animated that floor to go up and press against the curtain, right? But at the same time, what I was doing, I was moving the pole away and sideways. So I animated the pole as well at the top. So basically like he went a little bit more diagonal like that, and it started moving backwards as well. I think I animated the plane as well to create like this. It starts a little bit more diagonal and then flattens at the end, just to create this basically like drag it over the plane to create this type of stuff, So basically like it's being dragged from 2 different directions, both the curtain and the plane moving against each other and then pulling from the plane. And then you created this kind of like base, It's you can definitely find this stuff like online, like little tutorials for end cloth in Maya. So that's how I created the curtains themselves. And then you get some interesting, folds and everything. you know, even for clothing here, you don't need like a marvelous designer. You can create stuff like if it's simple stuff as a base, you want to just like keep sculpting later. You can definitely use in cloth in Maya, and then just like retouch in ZBrush later. You know, it's like it's pretty cool actually. I have to use more of that. Now you're gonna see there are a couple of different things here you've probably never seen, or you know, you've probably seen if you're working production stuff. Sometimes you have like actual objects in the scene, right, to represent the camera, the lighting setup. So in this case here, what I tried to do was to recreate like an octabox, which is instead of like a softbox that has like just like it's a square or a rectangle. An octabox has like obviously 8 sides, right? And then not only that, what I did, I create this little grid in here, right? So there's a grid in front of it. And the principle for when you talk about the grid, like in real photography, it basically like it directs the light rays more like parallel to each other. So basically, like imagine that each one of those is going to create like a little shadow, right? So basically, like it's going to prevent the light from spilling to the sides. So the light's going to come towards those holes, and it's going to be blocked because if you look from an angle like this, you don't even see the light, right? So that means that that point in there is not going to reach where I am. But as soon as I start turning, then, you know, it's like you get a little bit more direction. So basically, like it becomes a little bit more of a light beam, right? So this works very well, actually. I tried as a test in the past, and I like the result because first you get some interesting reflections, right? Like, for example, like see the reflection there from the grid itself. This type of reflection, when it's in eyes, for example, it looks very nice because sometimes, or a lot of times, they use this type of illumination for portraits. So we can get like some very nice reflections that look slightly more complex than a simple reflection from a plane, you know, from a light, like a area light. So that's why I put it this way. But it also, what you can do, you can create a light that's actually looks like an octagon, like that. And the way to create this is basically like, you remember like I was talking about Arnold light types. You have the area lights, and you have the sky dome, and you have a mesh light, the third one in here. The mesh light, basically like any object can be turned into a light, even this curtain here if I wanted to. So what I did was basically like create, let's just hide everything here, let's see. Just create like a cylinder. And in the parameters of the cylinder, you can just say, let's do like 8 sides, right? And then you have the height in there. And also you have the subdivisions, oops, there you go. You have the cap, so like subdivision caps. So you can just add 1 like this, right? We'll go from 1 to 2. And then once you have that in place, you can just chop everything else. So just chop this area here and have just that as a new object. I'm gonna freeze and hide, reset. And then you can turn this one into a light. So you just go to Arnold, lights, and then mesh light. Now that became a light, you're gonna turn red like that. So that's a light source now. And the cool thing about light sources, which are like mesh lights like that area lights don't have, and that's very important by the way. Area lights, if I'm not mistaken, they don't create like they don't make like caustics. In order to be able to see the caustics, you have to have a light that's visible. So for example, if you have like a dome light like this, it should create the caustics fine. Obviously, you're gonna need to crank the samples in order to see the caustics without being a gigantic noisy mess, right? But if you have like something like this, then if you make this light visible by clicking this button here, that light is gonna create a nice little caustic, you know? So it surprises me that the area lights don't have that option. You cannot make it visible. So that's basically what I did to create those lights. So let's go back here a few times. Let's see. So everything. There you go. More. There you go. So that's basically how I created those guys. And then for the grid itself, the cool thing about this is that if you want to control how directional things are, you can actually scale it. So if you make the grid deeper, it's more directional, right? You're going to have more areas of shadow. And then the shallower you get, the more you're going to get diffuse. right? Like the shadow is going to start getting more and more diffused. So it's pretty cool. You can control this just like in real life, you know. The objective here was to just exercise how this would work in relation to the results you see in a real life studio lighting setup, right? And then just for the sake of it, they create a little Octabox object in there, which, you know, you don't need to. So my lighting setup here looks like this. So I have a small Octabox in here with the same little setup, also with the grid in front. Then I have this back light in there. And then I have a gigantic light that's kind of just like adding like a fill in here. This one is actually, it's not even, let's see, color temperature, density. Yeah, I don't know if this is producing a lot of anything actually. Yeah, seems like I added like a map to it. So there's a map to look like, you know, there's a little fall off in there. That's it. But, oh, talking about fall off, there's something that we don't use that much. But for example, if you have an area light, for example, you create a light in here area, I'm just gonna grow it. Sometimes you want to be able to control the fall off. You know, it's like how the light fades over space, right? So if you have something like this, if you scroll down in the attributes, you're gonna see there's a field in here that says light filters, right? If you click add, you can get like, you can create a light blocker or a light decay. So if you click that decay in there, now you can go to this node and you can actually set up like the far attenuation and the near attenuation, which is something that 3D Max had by default, I think, for basically all the lights. But here in Arnold, I mean, you have to add as a filter, right? And then obviously you can delete if you want. You can disconnect this whole thing, delete it. But let's just like select here and then delete it. But yeah, so that's a way to control if you wanted something dramatic. You know, it's like a light that just like, it's very bright, but then it fades fades very fast. You know, it's like a very short fall off. So we can do that. And then, so basically that's my lighting setup. And then on top of that, I have an HDRI, which is like a kitchen I found somewhere. I don't even remember where this is from. I think it's from Maxim. He had like a website with a bunch of HDRIs. I paid a couple of bucks and I got like a bunch of his HDRIs. I think it's for Maxim something. And then that's basically it. You know, it's like, so when you render, you kind of like get this type of lighting, you know, you get like the key lighting here, the backlight, that's the big one from there. And then the fill light a little bit in there. And then everything else is basically like HDRI. It can be any HDRI. If you have like a, you know, eyes in place, you can actually add them in there and get some nice reflections, you know. And then about the shader, let's take a look at how the shader works here. So the shader settings I have are like this. So if I select the object, let's just go graph, materials. So it's very simple. I call this one clay red NSP. Like I said, I had it like dialed in perfectly before when I was using sRGB for my color space, and I just switched to ACES. So definitely like, it's not the perfect color or anything, but just so you see like the way that I'm using it. So for example, if you're doing clay, you're not gonna go for full-on subsurface. The same way you're not gonna go full-on subsurface if you're rendering rubber, for example, right? You need a little bit of the diffuse to be part of it. So if you're using like 50% of subsurface or 0.5 in here, that means this is going to be multiplied with whatever is here. So basically like the base is producing 50% of the effect, and then the subsurface the other 50% if this is at 0.5. So the scale I'm using like very small scale, 0.05, which is like almost like 1/3 of what the skin is in this case. So almost no subsurface. And then for the color, I'm using this color here, which you can take a look at the values. 15, and then 0.65, 0.36 approximately. And that's basically using output, you know, this one here, which is like the default that it shows in there. You can turn off the color management, and then you're gonna see it's gonna change quite a lot. But this is basically with color management. And then HSV, I mean, like you can always use RGB to see those numbers like a little bit easier. So you know, that's basically what I have, 367, 187, 127. Going back here. So that's the color for the subsurface. And the fact that I'm still using random walk here instead of random walk 2, because this thing comes from an old file. So let's see, in terms of coat, I'm using a little bit of coat. So it's a secondary specular at 0.15, and then roughness at 0.400. So it's very diffuse and very low reflection. It's just for a secondary effect. And then let's see, geometry, if I have anything, nope. So Shin, nothing. Transmission, nothing, because not a transparent object. And then specular, I'm using 0.33, also very, very diffuse looking. I could go a little bit, you know, a little bit more specky, maybe like a 0.5 or 450. Index of refraction kind of, you know, you can go higher if you want to, but in this case here, that's what I have. And then the tricking here is this base. So like by default, 0.8, but then now for the color, you see like you have something plugged into it. So what I did here, I plugged an ambient occlusion node, which you can find under the R node. Ambient occlusion is the first one right there, right? And basically like the out color of the ambient occlusion is plugged into the base color of the shader in here. And then for the parameters, for the white, instead of using white, I'm using this color here. That's kind of like this brownish, right? With those values, 10.83, 0.30, and then 0.26. And then basically for the black, that's the black, right? So, and those are the values I'm using if you guys have interest to it. Obviously, you can change those colors to anything you want. You just have to bear in mind that this color is being mixed. So if you look at this around here, you see like if I go back, so this color is plugged under the color here, but this is producing only 50% of the effect, right? This color is influencing only 50%, and the black as well. The other 50% is coming from whatever is plugged here in the subsurface scattering. So that means like that brownish color is being mixed with this reddish color here. And then with the lighting and everything, that's basically like the result that I'm getting, right? But then you have to check, for example, for things like, let's see if I have anything here. Let's do a view, select camera. I'm just gonna check my Arnold settings and see if I have any. No, I don't, that's good. So the exposure is set to 0 here, because sometimes you know, sometimes if I'm lazy, I'm just compensate the exposure. I put a little bit of, you know, it's like maybe 0.2, 0.3 in there, just to bring things a little bit lighter, right? But in this case here, I think it's because I cranked this number here just to show you. So the exposure here, if I 0 it, and this one at 1, so this is the default in here. So that's basically the result I'm getting out of the render itself, right? Now, there are a couple of things I can do to make things a little lighter in here. I could potentially increase the exposure in here for the lens of the camera, right? And everything would go lighter. But I prefer to actually tweak the lights and make sure that everything is a little bit more physically accurate. So if I have this little head in there, let's go for a smaller resolution so we can actually do some quick renders. Let's do 800 by 800. And then let's do less samples in here as well. And I'm gonna turn off my, my depth of field as well. I'm just gonna do a quick rendering here. It's calculating. Okay, it's coming. Okay, so that's the lighting I have at this point, right? But then, like I said before, I can always have a secondary lens, not lens, but the secondary camera, just to do my tweaks in here. So I'm gonna just switch to the other camera. Actually, this is the one I'm using. So this one, and this one here, I'm gonna be using just to tweak my lights. Let's look for it right there. Let's get this one. So I'm gonna go select the light itself, which is a little tricky, it's in enclosure now. But if you click the little red, got it. So now I have exposure of 7.2. I can actually increase this to, let's say, 8. So to get a little bit lighter overall. I don't have a lot of bounce happening, right? Like because my HDRI is not that strong, but it's fairly neutral. It's kind of like mostly whitish because it's a kitchen. So if I want to increase a little bit more of the bounce, oops, where is, oh, right there. I'm gonna click that one. And I'm gonna just increase the intensity, let's say double that. So now it's a little bit more, you know, more illuminated overall. So it's basically like a super simple lighting setup when you think about the position of the lighting and everything. The only different thing here is this fancy, you know, reflections we're gonna get from the soft boxes, and the fact that things get a little bit more directional. It kind of looks more like a studio lighting, you know, it's like in real life. Let's check this thing here. Please wait for process completion. So, okay, so it's still working. Let's see if we can come back later. I'm glad that it says that. Let's see. Can I have access to that one? No. Oh, okay, finished. Okay, cool. So that's done. Let's get, let's see, done. Okay. Yeah, so you did a fairly decent projection. Like I said before, like the eyes, we're gonna have to do some tweaking in there. But for the most part, the topology is conformed to the mesh, which is really cool. So from this point on, is a matter of like really refining things and doing manual projection in here. So for example, like things like that, right? That little thing in there, we can actually start, let's do something like, first thing I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna subdivide, I don't know if I should subdivide right now. Let's just like smooth this a little bit. Let's try to smooth it just to get that closer. Something like that, just to get a little bit less of a twist in there. And then let's do something here. Let's do our morph target. Let's do store. And then this way I can actually do that trick I showed you guys yesterday, just smooth things out like that. And then just do a project morph. And just like really redistribute those, the topology a little bit better, you know, before you do anything else. Just make sure that everything has a little bit more of a distribution. So even here, you know, I can pull this stuff down a little bit further and then project like that. Let's see this one. Yeah, this one's gonna have to do like a projection to the model to really resolve it. Let's see this area around here. Project. Looks good. This one. So it's kind of like doing a little cleanup, you know, to prevent any major problems. Like for the most part, just like a simple project all should work for most of the model, but definitely eyes and mouth, we're gonna have to be much more careful with. You see there's a little crunch in there already. And then definitely here in the corner, it wasn't able to actually move all the way. But it's the kind of stuff that in the past I would do this entire thing, the entire model would be manual projection. And so this already saved a shitload of work for us. You know, it's like if you look at the class of May of last year, all this stuff I was doing manual. So this is nothing for me to just like uncrunch a couple of things and get it done. So we're probably gonna do that after the class so I don't torture you guys too much. It's gonna take me a couple of minutes to actually clean it up. We're gonna keep going for as far as we can. It's like we have like a few minutes. Maybe we're able to do this now actually. Let's try that. And I'm doing a lot of stuff with the mouse, you know, sometimes I forget to use the tab. I keep like torturing myself with the mouse in there. Some of those wrinkles are coming from the show, like the previous model, right? So now she has those gigantic shoulders that I'm gonna have to fix and change proportions. But let's not worry about her gigantic shoulders for now.
Shouldn't you save first?
I'm sorry?
Shouldn't you save before doing what you do now?
Oh, do save just to prevent. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Man, during those classes, I rarely save anything. You know, it's like living life dangerously, I guess. So let's see. Let's just save it. I'm gonna follow your advice. see, trail up to the ZBrush, and that's going to be whoops, projection 1.
Also, why did you delete the bottom part of the mesh?
What's that?
Which is the bottom part of your mesh. Why did you delete it? Because it's never gonna be seen.
You know, I like it to have like a watertight model, because if I want to print something, I'm gonna have to close anyway, and my plan is to actually 3D print some of those models. And I think like it's better to have that way. And another thing is the light leaking, you know. So for example, if you have like an HDRI light and you forget to actually put like a plane underneath or something to block the light goes inside of the model and it treats everything as a mask. And then you're gonna start seeing like those very glowy areas. For example, like corners of the mouth or eyelids, everything gets glowy, you know. So yeah, I try to prevent that.
Okay.
See, like I although I did that, I was careful with this. That was projected. You see, this is the inner part of the mouth. I'm gonna just bring it back. It was kind of like you leak through it. Let's try to do a little smoothing in there, and then use the project again. Oh, the project is gonna bring the one back. So let's not do that just now. Just do the adjustments for the spans at this point. So that. Then let's bring this one in, and then I can save another morph target. So delete store, so that doesn't come back. And same for this guy, I'm gonna fix it now. This crunchiness. Then the projection we're gonna do right after, but for now, let's just do this. And then save another morph target, so delete store. So let's see if we can do some projection, just like in the stuff that is a little bit less crunchy. The crunchy stuff we're gonna do as a second step. So let's do this first. So let's do it again, store. So let's subdivide this mesh. So at this point here, I can just subdivide it. So let's see, everything is planned. I have like 17,000 for my base mesh. So I'm gonna do like a 1 subdivision level, 2. I'm gonna start with 2. Maybe 277 like that. And then I can try a couple of things here. Let's go back like to the lowest. Gonna do that same thing. I'm gonna hide those objects first, the insides. Gonna mask this one as well. And then I'm gonna get this one masked as well. I see some crunchiness right in the corners of the eye from the inside. I'm gonna have to correct it from the other side. Yeah, right there, there's some crunchiness happening right there. So let's do something here. So from this point, I can actually protect those areas by creating like a mask that's based on like a one subdivision level a little higher than that. So let's say right now, I just select that whole edge and it's protected right now. So I'm gonna just invert it. So I have my mask in there. And then I can just paint. Let's see if I can paint from the, maybe from here. So let's do a little paint just at the very edge of it like that. Maybe a little bit more resolution in this case. I want to make sure that I get just that little edge, and then carefully I'm going to be projecting that part later on, but I just want to get rid of anything that's going to cause trouble at this point. Yeah, actually there's this part here. Let's see if I can hide it too. Yeah, I can hide that entire thing and just like deal with this area here. Let's see from the outside what I'm affecting there, and I can just paint it back. So let's get this one out. There you go. And then this one is here as well. I think should be enough. Let's get to this one a little bit. Interesting. He's not like completely symmetric at this point. Thought he would be. Okay, so, and then I can just proceed. Let's see if we can get some projection going here. So let's see if we go back to our model. And if there's any area that's a little bit too different, for example, like this whole border here, let's just mask as well for now. Otherwise, we're not gonna be able to project anyway. Just mask it out. And then let's save a morph target. Store. Oops. Oh, not going to save the morph target because it's hidden actually. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to actually reverse click, basically like middle click to hide, to mask this entire thing and then hide everything. So now I have that mask plus the other masks combined. And now I can save my morph target. So let's try that. Store and turn on the background one. I could try like to do like a projection straight away at this point here and see what I get. But normally I would get like still some artifacts in some areas, you know. So I would have to be a little bit more careful. Uh-oh. Oh shit.
My advice saved you.
Oh man. You see what happened? There was like the topological brush, the topological move brush. I think I got this. There's one time I got this as well. It's like was the topological brush. I'm not gonna even bother with this. I'm gonna just open that one. But yeah, man, especially when you have like a very high resolution mesh, it's one mistake that I do a lot actually. I have the, for example, topological brush selected instead of the move brush. And then sometimes I'm working in HD geometry. And then as soon as I touch it, sometimes it takes a while and then comes back, but sometimes it just crashes straight away. So yeah, thanks for telling me to save. Otherwise, yeah. So let's try that one. Like how many minutes? About 7 minutes we lost. Let's see. Back to her. Let's do again the projection. Let's go back to my stuff here. Yeah, guys, there are days and there are days. Today is one of those days. The thing that's interesting is that all this stuff is kind of like, it's pretty much like what you expect, you know, it's like when you're doing something, it's like to get crashes and to get stuff not work the way you expect all the freaking time. It's one thing that those classes are a little bit different, you know, that I'm doing stuff like in real time with you guys and experimenting and try to make things work. And then the crashes I get, everything is recorded, right? Like nothing is edited. So, you know, it's like when you watch like videos of other people, like just like working on their stuff, everything is perfect because everything is edited. And in my classes, just, man, if something it went wrong, I'd rather leave it in there because people have to understand that things take work, you know, it's like it's not all like perfect. Sometimes you get into big trouble with all kinds of stuff. So I'd rather leave it in there.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hey.
Yeah. That's the reason I chose you, man.
No, this is because, like a real world.
Yes. Because everyone's showing some video, recorded video, and telling me they do this, do that. But when we see masters doing real time, that's the real motivation comes from.
Yeah, man. I don't know about the master, but yeah, it's like yeah, you got like in trouble. I mean, at work, for example, there's one thing that happens, right? Like when we get some big crashes, I used to work in this room with a bunch of different people, and then it was a big room, and then it was kind of like interesting to observe like the types of reaction from different people. You know, it's like there was one guy that every time he crashed like that, the guy would like smack the computer and in the keyboard, you know, it's like and really get very angry of it, the whole thing. And with me, it would be the opposite. I was just like, oh shit. I would just say like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to redo this. Just like, sit my butt and do it, you know. I think we spend too much time complaining about the crashes instead of just like redoing it. And yeah, it happens, man. Like I do this all the time. I just lost like 3 hours of work the other because I was again not saving all the time. And I just like, okay, well, maybe next time I'm gonna do better, I guess. You know, at least gonna be faster because I remember a bunch of the steps I did. But yeah, it sucks, man. That's part of what it is to be a digital artist, right? Like you know, you have to deal with bugs in software and things like that.
I would say that the best way to learn is to break it first.
Yeah, dude. It's like, fuck. It's like it's such a waste of time, right? But I mean, it's yeah.
I spend most of my time breaking everything first, and then if I get it completely right, it'll be broken, and then the second time it'll go a little bit smoother.
Yes, exactly. And so yeah, man, that's what it is. Oh, now I know why I had the topological, because I was moving this stuff out of the way before, and then I'm gonna have to go back in here and remember to keep just move, otherwise I'm gonna screw things up again. Let's just do this one. And which one? I think I was hiding this guy here as well. There's some penetration I can fix later. Once I have things projected, that new model I'm gonna push one step further. So that's the model I'm gonna be more concerned about, like making sure that everything is perfect. But this one here, I just want to make sure that the surface is okay. The internals, I'm not too concerned just yet. So let's just mask the whole thing. Go back to this guy. And actually, let's go back here. Just make sure that I'm masking also this area. So let's subdivide one time. Topological like that. Just so that I have that whole ring masked like the opposite, like that. And then for the mouth, I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to just paint a little bit. And yeah, there are certain things, I mean, like you learn over time, it's like the work with ZBrush and also with Maya is to actually understand that it's a minefield, it's like a lot of stuff that you would do in a certain way if the software was completely stable. You kind of avoid because there's a risk of crash, And I know it's not the right way to live, to actually like be afraid of the software all the time. It's like when it's going to crash or whatever. But it is what it is. It's like until people fix the stuff, and every time there's a fix in the software, that some other bug's going to be introduced. And so yeah, it's just like it's a minefield. So let's see if we can do a projection here and get this stuff done. So I'm gonna get this ear with a normal move brush now instead of the topological, because we know it's gonna crash. Let's get a little bit closer to what I had before. And then let's try a projection in here and see what we get. If it's too crazy, then we're gonna have to try it again. But so store morph target, let's try to do a single pass projection, which is not the smartest thing to do, but let's see what ZBrush does. Okay, so overall, obviously here we would have that problem, I have to smooth it out. So the masks in the eyes apparently worked okay. Gonna have to kind of like tweak that internal in there. See if we get this area. Let's just hide the bottom one and see what we have. So overall, it doesn't look too bad. But this area here definitely is going to need work. Like right there, I can fix. And then this little thing here, just smooth it. Let's see if the shot was like across the whole thing, or if it's just like localized. Apparently it's more localized. Let's see. Yeah, it's just like folded on itself. Sometimes you have to do this and then just use a little bit of inflate with a very low intensity, maybe like 2 or something. Just inflate to make sure that it has enough stuff to wrap around. And then when you have this type of stuff, is because the distance of the projection is not optimal. So it kind of like it could not reach far enough to catch that little point. So what you can just like smooth it and then bring it down closer to the original surface in there. So now, since we are just tweaking those areas, I can actually just mask just this area here, and then that little area in there, and then reverse the whole thing and say project all again. And then now I think it's a little bit better. So yeah, for the most part, I got a lot of stuff in there. Obviously, cleanup is going to be involved now, you know, to get like this fold to actually match perfectly in there. But I'm happy that the topology, at least, you know, is like it's fairly decent around those areas. There's a little penetration happening there. So I'm going to just like smooth it again. I can do a little projection in that area as well. I think it's part of the fold, and then just bring it up again. Smooth some more. Let's see what we have in there. I can just like little by little, you know, if I'm just tweaking one area, you just mask that area. And even like add a little fall off, like click inside and then, you know, control click inside, then reverse it. And then you can do the same thing. So just that area, project all. So, you know, keep doing this until like you get everything fairly clean. And from that point on, basically like with the topology in place, see, it's like it's following the structure here fairly well. But if something, oh, that one got some penetration, gonna have to fix from the inside, which should not be a big deal either. Oh, there's another one right there. Look, right, tip of the ear. That guy in there showed up as well. Yeah, so basically like it's gonna be a little bit of the same here from this point on for me until I get everything sorted out. And then from this point on, what I can do, if you want to fix stuff like that, just go back in resolution of maybe 1 or 2 times, and then start fixing like layer by layer. So go like one like that, and then go back. But her body looks so weird with this guy's shoulders.
I have to say, I think it kind of looks cool with it because it like completely contradicts the top half. A cute little like dwarf lady to like an old like work barbarian.
You know, it's like it reminds me of what's the name of that video game that was oh man, it was got a guy with in a space suit and he has like a Earthworm Jim, right? Earthworm Jim. Right. Yeah, he has a big body and a tiny little head with a worm face.
Yeah, it looks like she would be like in like she used to be like an Amazon warrior like elf.
You know, I was thinking about like playing with the proportions because if I'm gonna go for something like a little bit more elf like this, maybe I could go all the way in and start making stuff like you know, if you're designing a character, it's great when you have like a, you know, like a likeness or a face that looks you know, more proportional and stuff, because at that point you can start playing with things like, for example, like what if I brought like a forehead, you know, to create something a little slightly weird. You know, it's like you can always use, for example, like this snake hook to help with you know, the designing stuff. For example, like if you want to go for horns, right? You get like, you know, what horns would that be, right? That way you could like up, you know, it's like could go down. You know, it's like things like that. Just like it's cool to just once you have a model you can play with, you know, it's like you can start playing with you know, even making her face more aerodynamic, right? Kind of like, you know, you can start like bringing stuff out like that, and then using the zygomatic bone here to actually follow that same line. You know, it's like kind of like the temporalis and then really play with design, because during those classes I didn't have a lot of those chances to actually do something like that. And I wasn't planning actually to do this. It was supposed to be just like an ethnicity kind of thing. But I think like to keep myself entertained and also give you guys something else to think, you know, it would be cool to actually really design a little bit in this one and come up with a cool character that looks like a fantasy character, but that looks cool at the same time with the realistic skin, you know. That would be sweet, I think. But I'm really excited to just like try something with her, you know. I was actually looking for horns. There is did you guys ever hear or read about human horns? There is a thing that's it's you know, some people develop like horns. It's basically like it's the same material that you have like for nails, but it's just like those calcifications in the skin. So if I just type like human horn, you're gonna see there's a bunch of ladies, and there's one actually or two in China. It's called cutaneous horn, and at Wikipedia you can find it, and then you can find references like those, for example. It's normally like in India and in China that people have this stuff the most. Look at this dude. Check this out. It's almost like a tree trunk right there. And then this lady here is the most famous one. She has this big horn in there. Right.
I immediately Googled it and was immediately horrified.
Yeah. Look at this guy, man. Look how long. Normally, like they don't grow a lot, right? But then in these cases here, they are growing quite a lot. Yeah, weird stuff, man. Yeah, it's horrifying. Look at this one, gigantic. So yeah, some people, like when this picture came out for the first time, people were saying, like, that's fake. And then people were like, no, let's research it. And it turns out, no, it's not fake. Unfortunately, it's not fake. It's actually a real person with a real horn. But I don't think I'm gonna go for horns for her. You know, it's like she's too cute. I'm gonna go for kind of like probably like a head shape of some kind. You know, like people have like those certain cultures, right? The cone heads. The whole thing about torturing the poor kids and you know, putting their heads like compressed with some pieces of wood, and you know, it's like in really under pressure in there, and then over time the cranium just like grows into that shape and just conforms to it. So you know, I might go like with something. I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do with her, but it's just so tempting, you know, to keep that cute face and then go crazy with the head shapes and stuff. Yeah, I might do that.
You know that those kind of procedure actually prevent development of like empathy and such when they touch the frontal lobe.
I didn't know that.
So that's why, like, that's like one of the main theory why like Machu Picchu and like grandiose megalomania installed in those in culture, and while those culture actually stop by themselves because people get like raised to be maniacs.
Oh man, and you know what? You remind me. It was like, for example, like pharaohs, right? Like the pharaohs have like, I think, which one was the most famous one with the big like cone head?
Tutankhamun?
Yeah, it was Tutankhamun, right? He had like a cone head too.
Yeah.
Isn't that just a hat on those?
No, I think there is a cranium of one of them, but was actually deformed like that.
Yeah. Goes into a lot of ancient aliens.
Yeah. Because yeah, the hat definitely, they have those long hats, but there's one I remember seeing, like the mummy, it had a cone head. And the thing about the aliens that they talk about, right? Like when they found those ones, they are kind of like using the argument that, oh, okay, this is not an actual cone head made by humans, because it would not basically like grow the volume of the cranium, right?
Yeah, it didn't have the middle suture either.
Yeah, exactly. So the argument was that if you compress it, it basically changes the shape but doesn't increase volume. And those ones that they found, they are saying like, no, those are much bigger volumes. So, you know, they're kind of arguing about that, but go figure.
Love that stuff.
But yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, man, because I wonder with, for example, in the case of a pharaoh, right? It's almost like it's not enough that they're basically like inbred and, you know, it's like, and having sex with their sisters, and then on top of that, they still compress their skulls. Oh my God. That doesn't sound like something very normal.
No, it sounds like sane people you should be listening to.
What's that?
It sounds like perfectly sane people you should be listening to.
Yes, exactly, right? You should trust them.
Yeah, the gods talk to them. Of course. Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I hear voices. Oh, my God. That's funny. But, well, at least, guys, at the end of the day, after all this mess that I created today, we managed to project stuff. I'm going to be able to keep going with the model. And the funny part is that in the past, I would do this entire projection by hand, and it would take me exactly a full class to do that. And now I have this tool that does everything in a few minutes, and it still took me a whole class to do it. But at least I went through, you know, to some stuff like the lighting setup, which is kind of cool. You know, it's like if you guys want to do some tests like that, you know, it's like there are a couple of things you can learn with that. And obviously, like next week when we start talking about the rest of the stuff, like the skin and we're gonna look at the skin shader. Start looking at some kind of like a sketch of the skin shader before we start plugging all the maps. And then every time I show like a skin shader, I'm gonna try my best to actually break down the shader all the way through so you guys can see exactly what's plugged in there. And so my plan is to do this all the way to the end. It's like anytime you guys having a question and it's like, oh, can you open that shader? I want to check what you have in there, or whatever, Or like I said before, a model that I modeled in the past, it's like you guys like, oh, how do you do that one? It's like I have no problem if it's not gonna derail too much. I totally fine just opening and doing that for you guys. But yeah, I think like for today, I think I'm just gonna Oh, sorry. Yep.
Yeah. Please go ahead, sir.
No, you go ahead.
I just wanted to ask one outside this course questions. Okay. What is your best movie which you work on and you're very, very happy?
Oh, that I'm very happy.
It might be a flop also. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're really happy with the work. Yes.
It's very tricky, right? Because like a lot of those movies, I mean, like not a lot, like all of them, right? Sometimes we get blamed, like the digital artists, we get blamed by the design that went through, and it sucks in the movie and stuff. But we are always being working in this team, and then there is always the director and the visual effects supervisors, and people are giving us all those directions, and sometimes the direction comes from someone who is not even an artist, and that happens. Yes. For example, when you have like they do those video previews, right? So they kind of like put together a cut and they show to stockholders, basically, like people who are actually investing, basically bankers, right? They have nothing to do with the art. They just want to put like money down and collect like the profits of that money they're investing in that movie. So it's basically like a bunch of bankers sometimes. And then what happens is that they're going to show this because the guys are investing all this money, putting millions and millions, and they want to have their saying as well. And sometimes it's all based on like, oh, I think if you, and it's just like those ideas sometimes are not the smartest. And instead of like trusting visual effects supervisors and art directors and people with experience in it, you have to actually bend and else no, there's nothing we can do. We have to do the change. And then sometimes it ends up like pretty badly in the movies, and then we are blamed, But I'm gonna tell you that in terms of the movies, I had a little bit more freedom to help with design and stuff. I like the last King Kong that we did, Skull Island. So I helped to design King Kong together with the art directors at ILM. And then obviously, I mean, like before the movie got in there, those directors, they go shop in many different studios. So by that time that when they come to you to do the job, they already have concept art generated by NPC, by freelance artists, by all kinds of people, And then you have to kind of like go sort through all of that and then pick the stuff that he likes the most and then introduce some other stuff that he might like. And then at the end, you can come up with something that looks cool, So I kind of like that one. And then, I mean, Transformers, I never liked a lot of the designs. I mean, like I like the designs, but it's just like they're too busy, It's almost like you need something that people can focus a little bit more. So that's why I think Bumblebee was more successful. That, the designs are simpler. It's just like more straightforward to understand the design. And I like that one. I helped to build Bumblebee. I built like all the main panels for Bumblebee. And then what else? I like the characters for Rango as well. When we did Rango, it's like all cartoon stuff, and I really like the designs because they're so twisted. It's all the designs from the designs from Crash. Crash is a completely awesome artist, man, and he creates like those very different styles too. And I really like that.
I didn't realize you did like animation too. I didn't realize you did Rango.
Oh yeah, Rango was done at ILM. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we got the Oscar, man, for that movie. I don't think Pixar had anything competing that year, so we got very lucky. But yeah, we got the Oscar for Rango, best animation.
Cool. Yeah. I didn't realize that you
even I was
personally.
Yeah, that's fun, man.
I was thinking about that King Kong hand, how you did it. Actually, how you check when you sculpting all those details in the King Kong hands and all those things. How you checking it? You have any rendering setup or something like that? Or just
yeah. I mean, like
editing?
King Kong, because it was such a big asset, we had to actually split the work. So I took care of like getting like a base mesh that we got from another artist. That was the first pass, and then changing it completely almost after a couple of months to conform to what the director wanted. And then I was in charge of the model of the base mesh plus the detailing of the face and then the body. But then hands and feet, Martin Murphy, who's a great texture artist, he actually took care of the detailing as well in ZBrush. So most of the hand detail you see is all done by Martin. And the thing that was very cool about that movie is that ILM had a contact with the local zoo. And then the local zoo called our producer and said, you guys are looking for a gorilla reference, right? And it was like, yeah. So check this out. There is a very, very rare opportunity for you guys, which is like we're gonna have one of our gorillas having a medical procedure. We're gonna have to remove one of his tooth. I think he had a tooth that was bad, and we're gonna have to stitch him up. So he's gonna be completely sedated. So you guys can come, bring the cameras, and you can take pictures of the gorilla. So I went, man. It was like a group of me and another 2 girls who work with me. Gail did all the fur, by the way, together with Ryan, and the other one was she actually did the texturing. Allison, she did all the texturing for King Kong, and then so the 3 of us we went, and I brought my macro lens and everything. I took pictures, man. I have this gallery. It's still, I still have this gallery. Pretty awesome. Close up stuff like of fingers, nails, the hair, everything. And then that was basically what we did, gave to Martin as a reference. So he had like super high resolution images to copy like all the wrinkles and everything, So that's basically what we did. Yeah, it was awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It feels really great to know.
Yeah. Sometimes you get those very rare opportunities, it's like to go to those places and oh man, it's so awesome to see. Probably like 6, I think it was like 6 people trying to lift him, it's like he put in the bed. It's like this gigantic thing, man. So awesome. I'm going to share, maybe tomorrow I can open some of the photos I have to show you guys. It's like there's some bloodied up stuff.
Really great.
Yeah, some bloodied up stuff. Like you're going to see the tooth in the piece of cloth and stuff. But it's like super close-ups, I can share tomorrow. All right, guys. Sorry for the mess today. Hopefully things going to get a little bit smoother. But I cannot promise that because it always, crash is going to happen for sure. Especially when we get to XGen in about 2 weeks. Jesus, man. XGen is guaranteed to crash. So prepare yourselves. Guys, thank you so much. Have a great night or a great day. And stay safe from coronavirus.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.